Larry Berman, I'll be formal here, and I'm the president of the Board of Trustees of the museum. I'm so happy to be here with everyone, to welcome all of us and all of you to the opening of the exhibit, and to welcome our featured guest, Rabbi Sally Priesand, and other guests and patrons. This is an exciting time for several reasons. This is the first exhibit we've had in over 2 years. The last one we opened in December 2019. And of course, it's a relief at this point to be coming out of the pandemic and to be able to plan this special exhibit and have people with us in person. We're social beings and we want to be together, and we're so happy that we all can do so. And as well, we've learned over the last couple of years that Zoom is going to be part of our lives as well. And we're so very happy that while we're here in person, some of us are watching this as we're live streaming this so that we can reach a larger audience. So we're excited about that as well. And of course, it is such an honor to be here highlighting the career and the community efforts of Rabbi Sally Priesand, America's first ordained female rabbi. I looked at one of the placards and it pointed out, or somewhere here, Rabbi Priesand makes history once again. Think how many times she's made history. You know, again, just as an individual and as a Jewish person, I am thrilled, and I know I express the feeling of so many of us, to know that here in our midst, we're with a Rabbi Priesand who had the will and the determination, the desire to serve her people as a rabbi, and to think that we're celebrating or becoming to celebrate the Jubilee, the 50th anniversary, the Yovel of the Rabbi Priesand's ordination. And to think that now, 50 years later, there are approximately 800 rabbis. There were women rabbis. Think what this has meant for female rabbis, and how many cantors are now involved, and what this means to enrich our community and all that. And again, I am thrilled as an individual, and I know I express the feeling of everyone else here, to realize the kind of impact that Rabbi Priesand has had in so many arenas as part of the whole community. You can look at interfaith neighbors. You could look, I'm not going to be going into this, others will, but we look at your work, Rabbi Priesand, in helping the homeless and to make sure that people do not become homeless, in helping those who are food deprived to be sure that they may have food and sustenance, to give them education, and I know the early childhood education and the like, gun safety, Planned Parenthood. The effect on the whole community is amazing. And we don't have to go far and wide here. We have Rabbi Priesand here. And just to add one more thing here, we look at the artwork. I was never connected with the Monmouth Reform Temple, but in one way I was, because every year I knew there was an art show, and I have some of those works at home now. Maybe some of you do too. And here we have some of Rabbi Priesand's works of her own, and it's marvelous to look at them. So this is really thrilling for all of us here, and we really look forward to a lot of people coming to this exhibit in the next few months and learning more and being inspired as we are about what Rabbi Priesand means and has meant to our community. So again, we're so happy that you have come today, and I look forward with you to hearing from Rabbi Priesand as she shares with us a little bit about her life this afternoon. It's my pleasure now to turn the program over to our Executive Director, Jessica Solomon, for her remarks.
I'm going to use a microphone only so I feel like a Spice Girl. You guys are probably me a little out of that range, but I'm not. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jessica Solomon. I am the Executive Director here, and so you've probably seen my face plenty of times. Maybe tired of hearing myself introduce myself, but it's okay. It is such a privilege to welcome everyone back. I look at this place all the time, empty, and it's so sad. You know, the people, the community really are the ones that fill the personality, the energy that we even want to make exhibits for. This is all for you. Everything we do is for our Jewish community, our supporters, and our friends and family. So I want to welcome everyone back. It's been such a long time since the pandemic, and I just want to remind everyone of the mission, if you don't remember. It is a twofold mission. It's to connect Jews to their heritage, to present exhibits, programming, exhibitions, celebrating, preserving, and enriching this unique history that we have here in Monmouth County. This is often shrouded within history, and it's really important. And so we take pride in our mission and serving everyone here today and helping those within the vicinity as well. I really cannot think of a better time to honor Rabbi Priesand. She's such a delight. I had such a great time with you when we were unloading everything before we're making the exhibit. But some of you guys may not know why it's so important to have this exhibit. Not only is it the 50th anniversary of her ordination, but it's also Women's History Month, so gotta give us a month. Nice, right? A little round of applause for us women. Yeah, thank you. She has been a supporter since the beginning, since before we had the permanent exhibit. She has given us so much help, guidance, and anytime we needed it, a support. I want to thank her personally as on behalf of the board and also on behalf of the museum itself, since I can't speak, but I can. These are so many great organizations within these exhibits that she has contributed to, not just the Jewish Heritage Museum. She has made an impact everywhere she walked, and everywhere she touches turns to gold. Her dedication does not go unnoticed. Also, I really want to thank the exhibits committee. The exhibits committee is working so hard on this, and they have been helping today with everything, pouring wine, checking everyone in. Without them, there wouldn't really be an opportunity like this. And I also want to recognize Alice Berman. She is the exhibits chair for her leadership. She has worked tirelessly. I mean, she practically slept here. I mean, I'm surprised. I've seen her more this past week than I ever had these last almost 3 years. And without her and her committee, this really wouldn't be as big of an exhibit opening as it really has been. And without further ado, I want to welcome Alice to give a few more remarks, and I'll jump back in later to finish this all off. But here's Alice Berman right here.
Yay. I'm going to do the same thing you did. Bring this right up close. So I'm also delighted to welcome everyone here today in person, as well as our live stream viewers. And it is a true honor for the museum to be able to recognize Rabbi Sally Priesand at this extraordinary milestone in her life. And in addition, it gives us the opportunity to reflect on many ways
to honor Rabbi Priesand. She's such a delight. I had such a great time with you when we were unloading everything before we're making the exhibit. But some of you guys may not know why it's so important to have this exhibit. Not only is it the 50th anniversary of her ordination, but it's also Women's History Month, so gotta give us a month. Nice, right? A little round of applause for us women. Yeah, thank you. She has been a supporter since the beginning, since before we had the permanent exhibit. She has given us so much help, guidance, and anytime we needed it, a support. I want to thank her personally as on behalf of the board and also on behalf of the museum itself, since I can't speak, but I can. These are so many great organizations within these exhibits that she has contributed to, not just the Jewish Heritage Museum. She has made an impact everywhere she walked, and everywhere she touches turns to gold. Her dedication does not go unnoticed. Also, I really want to thank the exhibits committee. The exhibits committee is working so hard on this, and they have been helping today with everything, pouring wine, checking everyone in. Without them, there wouldn't really be an opportunity like this. And I also want to recognize Alice Berman. She is the exhibits chair for her leadership. She has worked tirelessly. I mean, she practically slept here. I mean, I'm surprised. I've seen her more this past week than I ever had these last almost 3 years. And without her and her committee, this really wouldn't be as big of an exhibit opening as it really has been. And without further ado, I want to welcome Alice to give a few more remarks, and I'll jump back in later to finish this all off. But here's Alice Berman right here.
Yay. I'm going to do the same thing you did. Bring this right up close. So I'm also delighted to welcome everyone here today in person, as well as our live stream viewers. it is a true honor for the museum to be able to recognize Rabbi Sally Priesand at this extraordinary milestone in her life. And in addition, it gives us the opportunity to reflect on many ways that she has contributed to and impacted the community which she has called home for more than 40 years. Before we get started with that, a few more announcements. I'd like to be able to thank a number of people who have made this exhibit possible. First, you've met Board President Larry German, representing of your pamphlet today. And specifically then, I'd like to recognize the exhibits committee that Jessica mentioned, Gloria Berman, Heather Markson, Michelle Klausner, and Jeff Wolf, and also others who contributed their time and efforts to the exhibit, especially our editor, Carol Fox, who makes sure that all the sentences you read make sense. And I'm also grateful for help from Arlene Lutz, Irene Herbin, Dean Ross, and Steve Gaudet. Can't do it without them, right, guys? And Helene Cohn, helping with today's reception, as is Heather. And of course, this would not have been possible without the cooperation and generous loan of personal items from Rabbi Priesand, and artwork that's on loan from Stu and Cora Touchband, Judy Luger, and Gabrielle Clishold. So yay to all of them. Also, I would be very remiss if I did not mention the work of our executive director, Jessica Solomon, and also with apologies to our administrative assistant, whose name isn't in print, you always miss one, right? Richa Puri, who has helped set up this exhibit and set up our reception today. Thank you. And finally, also on your pamphlet, I want to make note of our exhibits committee member, Barbara Silvers, who was not able to see this through to its completion. She passed away just a couple of months ago, so she had worked with us up until that point. It is noted on the Jewish Heritage Museum panel around the corner that Rabbi Priesand has generously put her money where her mouth is and is one of the museum's legacy donors, remembering the museum in her estate plan. Now, there are several legacy donors here today, but this is an opportunity for us to specially recognize one of those donors who decided not to wait for the museum to receive an afterlife gift, but generously remembered the museum last year with her living legacy gift, and we extend our deepest appreciation and affection to Eleanor Rubin for her generosity and for the health of the museum and the ability to continue to bring these exhibits to the community. Eleanor, thank you. You'll notice that many of our display panels include quotes, and I want to thank those who contributed their stories and photos that form the basis for much of this part of the exhibit. I know I could have reached out to dozens of others who might have had something to add, especially at Monmouth Reform Temple, which is why we made it possible to contribute what we called well wishes, and those are printed also in your pamphlet. But I would like to thank and recognize Gerald Reisner and David Levinsky, representing Monmouth Reform Temple. Yay. Dale Daniels, who couldn't be here today, so past President Al Zager is here representing Change. Beth and Joel Krinsky, also Howard Gassis and David Nussbaum, representing Jewish Federation of Monmouth County. The Krinskys are here. Paul McElvey and Stephanie Ferrier, who provided text and photos about interfaith neighbors. And I thought we were going to be represented here today by Chip Craig. Oh, Chip, you made it, you're here. So he is representing Interfaith Neighbors. Thank you. And Phyllis Kinsler, who also couldn't be here today, representing Planned Parenthood of Monmouth County. And Michael Berman, whose comments are in your pamphlet, representing the Jewish Heritage Museum. Throughout my interaction with all of these community members, the consistent theme came through that Rabbi Priesand's contributions to their organizations not only helped their organization achieve its goal and missions, but her presence enhanced the organization and its members in meaningful ways. She's been a role model, a leader, an advisor, a facilitator, and inspiration. She was encouraging, respectful, and intelligent. For today's program, Rabbi Priesand has indicated that she didn't want to be the speaker with a prepared speech, but would rather prefer a more informal question and answer session. But before we get to the questions, I'm honored to introduce at this time Rabbi Sally Priesand and give her a chance to make any remarks she'd like to at this point. And if there's anything you would like to share, now is the time. Rabbi Priesand.
Thank you so much for being here today. I'm really kind of overwhelmed by this exhibit. Many of you know that most of my historical memorabilia is now in Cincinnati at the American Jewish Archives, which will end up being its permanent home. But knowing that this exhibit was going to take place, I tried to hold back a few things so that we would have enough here. What I really love about this exhibit is that it's about Monmouth County, and it has to do with the things we have accomplished together here in our community. You wouldn't believe all the things I've been doing this past year, speaking sometimes 2 or 3 times a week in congregations all over the country. For me, Zoom has become like the silver lining of COVID. I would never be able to travel to all these places. Even this morning, I spoke someplace before coming here. So I've been able to tell my story. I've been able to also tell the story of Rabbi Regina Jonas, who was the first woman rabbi in the world. A lot of people think I am, but I'm the second. She lived in Berlin and was about to be ordained, having completed all the requirements, including a thesis entitled, "Can Women Serve as Rabbis?" But unfortunately, her mentor died the year before she was ordained, and the seminary refused to follow through. She had to wait till 1935 to be ordained privately by Rabbi Max Dienemann, the president of the Liberal Association of Rabbis in Berlin. She was only allowed to serve in schools, hospitals, and homes for the elderly. But as rabbis began to emigrate or be deported during the Holocaust, she was invited to fulfill various rabbinic duties at synagogues in the area, and she quickly developed a reputation for pastoral work and preaching ability. Unfortunately, she later died in Auschwitz, and we try now to remember her every year on Shabbat Bereshit, which we have determined is her yahrzeit. And we've asked denominations all over the world of whatever brand of Judaism to remember her on Shabbat Bereshit. And that really is, I think, catching on. And also, I had an opportunity a few years back to go to Berlin and walk in her footsteps with a group of rabbis, lay people, and historians. And we dedicated a plaque in her memory in Terezin. And in the speaking that I've been doing, that every now and then when I tell her story, somebody will say, I was just at �㪂𝑧𝘕 and I saw the plaque, which really made me very happy because we were afraid no one was ever going to really see it. So that's kind of what I've been doing during the pandemic. And today I want to offer my thanks to the museum, to the board members, to Larry for his beautiful remarks, Jessica for all that she does, Alice for putting together this exhibit. Those of you from Monmouth Reformed Temple know it was kind of like Arts Festival. And when I brought everything over and we went through everything, Alice made a careful reckoning of everything I brought, and we signed a paper and everything that we used to do. You know, everything that we used to do at Arts Festival. So I decided that today it really would be better for all of you to just have a chance to ask me some questions, and we'll see where it goes from there.
Thank you. So I'm going to ask the first question, sort of get us started on this track, and then I'm going to suggest to everybody, look around the room. I can tell you, Rabbi mentioned that she brought each piece in and we listed it, but we also heard the story. And I can tell you that pretty much anything here has a story. So if there's something that catches your eye or something on these panels that you want to know about, this is the way to hear those background stories that go with it. But I'm going to ask a more global question to get us started. And again, it sort of comes from the time that I've spent in the last few months living your life with you, learning about your life. And one of the things that I sort of feel is that you're an institutionalist. You believe in institutions and that that institutions can help communities and individuals be better, that they can in fact repair the world. And I found that confirmed up in the front case. We have the page from the book of those rabbis who have blessed the House of Representatives.
When rabbis bless Congress.
Right. And your little speech really just reflects that notion. Your prayer on that morning reflects that notion that through our institutions we can make a better world. So with that in mind, I'd like to ask you to reflect on these organizations, the ones that are shown and listed here, and what made them meaningful for you. How did you come to decide that this is where you were going to invest your time? And I would suggest that it is really important to notice that you've invested more than 30 years as president of Interfaith Neighbors on that board. So a lot of times rabbis will come and go. They'll do projects, they'll do an event, they'll be there for a short period. But these have been longer term, all of them, longer term commitments. So tell us about what that means.
Okay. Well, first of all, I believe that it's important for every Jewish person to belong to a synagogue. To me, a synagogue is the only place that makes Jews Jewish. We have lots of other organizations, all of them are important, but to me, the survival of the Jewish people depends upon being part of a community. When I retired, that first Friday, when I was allowed to come back to the temple after 6 months of being away, I sort of said to myself, well, do I really want to go? I felt like all of you feel probably on when Friday night comes and you say, oh, I'm tired, I don't really want to go. so then I tried to remember what I used to teach. And I always used to say to people that when you come to services, you're not going to have a profound religious experience every single time, because you bring yourself with you. And whatever happened that day, you were busy, you were taking care of the kids, the grandkids, you had a million errands to run, whatever. And then you ran into the synagogue, you plopped down and you said, "Rabbi, inspire me." Well, that doesn't always happen. But you should remember that by your very presence, you are making it possible for a community to pray together. So I go to services every week when I'm in town, and I try always, I don't always feel like getting ready, getting dressed, whatever, but I go because I think it's important for the community to be together. That's how we survive. That's how we make a contribution to the survival of the Jewish people. I also happen to think that belonging and supporting federation is another thing that every Jewish person should do. It represents us as a community. And so when I first came to Monmouth Reformed Temple, we really weren't involved in federation. Those of you will remember that B'nai Israel and Monmouth Reformed Temple had their own UJA campaign, and we weren't really involved in the community. So for me, that was an important thing. And when we decided to join federation, we brought B'nai Israel along with us. And that was a good thing. And so I always remember, it's kind of like federation is part of the dues we pay for belonging to the Jewish community, the larger Jewish community beyond our synagogue. So when I heard about the Jewish Museum of Monmouth County, I said, another organization that every Jew should belong to and support. And I was very grateful to be asked to serve on the board, and I've been on the board really of all of these organizations. And it was really wonderful to watch this unfold. I remember coming here when it really was just being built. And they were all, be sure to see that up there, the
Water tank.
the water tank, that's what it is. I remember that basically that was about all we saw in the beginning, was we knew there was that water tank. So I right away decided that I would, that I wanted to support this. I wanted to watch it develop, and I wanted to help make the permanent exhibit, which we now have. And some of you may remember that many years ago, we did have an exhibit of all my historical memorabilia, and many of you helped me create a matching donation. And we raised a lot of money that then enabled us to have a permanent exhibit and all the technological things that we're able to do here in the museum. So my other goal was really to help Monmouth Reformed Temple be a Jewish presence in our community. I think that's very important. And so Interfaith Neighbors, remember 34 years ago now, several faith communities came together to form Interfaith Neighbors in response to the homelessness that existed in our community. And at that time, many people were ending up in motels. and we wanted to help them get out of motels, have a second chance, and stand on their own 2 feet again. So that's why we founded Interfaith Neighbors. And Interfaith Neighbors, I never planned to be the president. I was the vice president, and Reverend Jack Johnson was the president, and he got called away to another part of New Jersey. And so I just moved up, and I've sort of stayed there ever since. Because to me, Interfaith Neighbors does so much to help in our community. We're a very respected organization. We run the Meals on Wheels program. If you're looking for a place to volunteer, delivering those meals, 1,100 meals a day we deliver. So we always need people to help with delivering those meals. We have a launch center which helps people begin their, really develop their ability to have a business of their own and to move on. We have the Kula Farm, the Kula Urban Farm. I don't know if you've ever been over there in Asbury Park, but this is started with a greenhouse, a hydroponic greenhouse. That the produce that we grow now goes to the restaurants in Asbury Park. So they don't have to wait 72 hours for the produce to be delivered. It comes right from there. And we also have a program in which members of the neighborhood can come and take what they need for free. And we have so many different kinds. We have affordable housing. We have renovated over 40 houses and allowed people to be able to own a home. People who thought they would never be able to own a home. We have, with our original thoughts, we have rental and mortgage assistance. And that's what the congregations are responsible for. We still have, I think, nearly 50 congregations that contribute regularly. I know at Monmouth Reformed Temple, we started the Fund for the Homeless right at the beginning of when we helped to found Interfaith Neighbors. We still have that, and any contribution to the Fund for the Homeless goes to Interfaith Neighbors. So we're proud of our work at Interfaith Neighbors. And change. Change came to my attention, and for those who don't know, change has 2 H's. It's not misspelled, which I always thought that was going to be a problem, but the Center for Holocaust, Human Rights, and Genocide Education. It's at Brookdale Community College. It too has a wonderful exhibit. If you've never seen it, you should go. It's right next to the library, easy to find. And it is not just about the Holocaust, but also the Armenian genocide and Rwanda. So we have an exhibit that includes all of that. Change was brought to my attention by our dear friend Hy Klein. We miss him a lot. And he told me about it, and he took me over to a meeting. And that was when I decided to get involved in change. I did serve on the board for many years. And you will see they were gracious enough to honor me. And again, I think it's very important for us to remind everyone, never again. I'm sure you're as upset as I am about the Ukraine. And if never again ever meant anything, right now, it definitely means something. So change does enormous things for our community, especially in our schools. And Holocaust survivors from our community go into schools and meet with students and answer their questions and help them to understand what the Holocaust was all about. And I know that that has been very meaningful to students at Monmouth Reformed Temple over the years. Many of them established very important relationships with the Holocaust survivor that they met. So change, I think, is very important for our community. It fights bigotry and hatred everywhere. And we want to teach people, empower people to stand up against that. Planned Parenthood. Planned Parenthood probably was a no-brainer for me to be involved in because it's about women. And Phyllis Kinsler was a member of our temple. She was the executive director before she retired and asked me to be on the board, and I accepted that and started a clergy committee that would support Planned Parenthood. And in the very early years, some of you may remember that we had services with many different clergy to either honor the staff of Planned Parenthood or to allow people to give testimony as to what Planned Parenthood meant for them and the fact that they were there when needed. And of course, abortion was one of the things that was discussed. Those are very moving services. I went off the board, my term was up, and after I retired, although I sort of promised myself that I was going to learn to say no, like I think the first day I was at home after I retired, Phyllis Kinsler called and asked if I would come back on the board and start up the clergy committee again. So I did that, and then I ended up on the national board of Planned Parenthood, and I remember going to their convention in Washington. It was at a hotel that accepted dogs, so Shadow went with me. And he had a great time, and we had a very large room with lots of, and we used to walk, and everybody would stop and play with him, and so he enjoyed it a lot. So I let him volunteer too. So the one, I think I got all the organizations. Yeah. Yes, and one more thing I wanted to say about Federation. When I was a volunteer for Federation, I did a lot of things at Federation. We started a chaplaincy committee, and it was one of the first times that a Reform rabbi, a Orthodox rabbi, and a couple of conservative rabbis worked together on this committee. And I remember that the voting was, I was kind of surprised. The Orthodox rabbi and I agreed on almost everything. And we used to vote the same way. So that was one of the things that I was involved in. I always tried to come to Super Sunday and volunteer for that. And then I don't remember if it was David or Howard who asked me to come to the board meeting one month and tell the board why they should support the PJ Library. So if any of your children or grandchildren are into the PJ Library, where every month they get a book from the PJ Library, that's because I convinced the board that we should have the PJ Library. And it's one of their more successful programs, as I understand. So I did want to mention that. And My friend Rabbi Sandy Sasso is a children's author, and she has probably at least 30 books for kids. And her recent series is a book about Regina Jonas called Regina Persisted, a book about Judith Kaplan, Judy Led the Way. Next weekend, we celebrate the 100th anniversary of the first bat mitzvah. Judy Kaplan was the daughter of Mordechai Kaplan, Rabbi Mordechai Kaplan, and she had the first bat mitzvah. And that book has been chosen by the PJ Library as one that will be going out soon. The third book hasn't been published yet, but it's ready, and it should be published in May, and it's called Sally Open Doors. So it's a book about, really my legacy is that I open doors, new doors for women in the Jewish community. What's important to me is that I tried always to hold open the door. And there are 835 women who have been ordained in the Reform movement. There are well over 1,000 women now around the world, every denomination of Judaism, including modern Orthodox. And I will tell you that our colleague, Rabbi Julia Gris, is the rabbi of Shirat Hayam in Odessa. She has escaped with her daughter and some members of her congregation to Poland. And we are doing what we can to help her as she tries to get out of Ukraine the rest of the members of her congregation. And if you go to the website of the Free Synagogue of Flushing, you can see an interview with her done just last week, which she tells you what it was like to get out and what's happening now. So I recommend that to you. One other thing that I will end with, just to share another piece of good news, because I'm still a little speechless about it. My portrait is going to hang in the National Portrait Gallery of the Smithsonian. This is happening because of the generosity of my friends, Rabbi Amy and Gary Perlin. They have been working for about 3 years, I think, to make certain that the National Portrait Gallery is going to have a Jewish section, so that people who visit will know that Jews have been involved in America since its very founding. And they have a portrait that they've paid to have restored of Isaac Mayer Wise, the founder of Reform Judaism in America. And then they're gonna have me. I decided that instead of a painting, I would prefer to have a photograph. And I think you will understand that when you see the photograph over there. This is a copy of the photograph that is now at the Hebrew Union College in New York. There is an exhibit called Holy Sparks, and there are 24 female first rabbis who are portrayed there by 24 female artists who were assigned to each one. Some of us had a chance to go last week, and we had a great time. So the artist, her name is Joan Roth. You may have heard of her. If you haven't, look up on the Jewish Women's Archive in their encyclopedia, and you can read all about her. She is known for taking photos of Jewish women around the world. She has a book published of that. She also has a book published of homeless women in New York. And that photo took 5 hours. But we worked together on it, and we got along very well. We've become friends, and I have asked her to take the photo for the National Portrait Gallery. We haven't taken it yet. We have some ideas for it. So hopefully at some point we'll be able to go to Washington and visit the National Portrait Gallery. Thank you all so much for coming today.
This from the one who didn't want to speak.
I know, well.
And the only editorial comment I would make is it's time to do that Planned Parenthood thing again. You know, that whole committee about
Clergy.
Clergy,
Yes, we
time to
do
do that
need
now.
that.
Yeah.
Reproductive freedom.
Reproductive freedom, that was it. So let's take one or two. If anybody has a question that you would like to ask at this point, I should have known. I'm going to start with Jean. Her hand went up first.
You don't have to get up.
No, just take down your mask. Tell us what you want.
It's like you said, every Jewish person should join a synagogue. But here in the United States, the one thing that most American Jewish people have done is have attended Passover Seder. I was very upset to learn the 𝘊𝘰𝘯𝘵 organization just announced that for the first time this year, less than a majority of American Jews have attended a Seder. Can you think of what we might
Well,
do?
that's why synagogues are so important, because we teach them how to have a Seder, and many congregations have a congregational Seder, at least on the second night. But people do have to be taught how to do these things. I think that young Jewish people today, it seems that they are involved in tikkun olam, in repairing the world, but they're not necessarily so much joiners. I honestly, I didn't know that mostly Hanukkah and Passover are the two big holidays. I'm surprised that people aren't going to a Passover Seder. You know, did you know they even have a new Haggadah that's called the 10-minute Seder? Wow. Yeah, you know, oh, you used it?
Okay, and Marilyn had her hand up. Take down your mask. And,
I'm sorry,
that's
sure.
okay.
But first of all, I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
You're really such a role model, so much role to look up to. One thing religion is very good about, and Jewish religion, is to help people go on when they lose hope and they don't always go on. So I was just wondering, I know it's a difficult question, how you do that. How do you go on, and how do you help other people go on when they feel like you know, like Ukraine or anything going on, feel like, oh, forget it, you know, it's hopeless.
How to move on when
Yes, how to
life
move
throws
on.
you
Well,
lemons.
Loss, challenges, anything.
I'm just a very positive person. I'm very optimistic about everything, and I try very hard to always to look forward and to have hope. We know that we all have moments when we have to go through grief or loss or whatever, and you just have to go through them.
Right.
There are different stages of that. And then one of the ways I find hope is that when I work with other people in organizations that are doing great things to make the community better for everyone, that gives me hope. Chip will tell you that every time I go to a board meeting of Interfaith Neighbors, I always end by saying how wonderful it was to hear everything that we've been doing and to know that we're making a difference.
Right.
And, that's just a very important thing. getting involved with other people. So you're not alone, you're not just sitting in your house by yourself, but also finding someone who can listen to you.
Right.
You know, we're not always so good at listening. And here's something I learned. The word listen, if you rearrange the letters, silent. You have to be silent in order to listen. And I think too many people are always thinking of what they're going to say next instead of really listening. So I think that's an important thing too.
And if you read Michael Berman's comments in your pamphlet today, you will see that lesson carried through. He mentions that as well. Cora, you had put up your hand.
Well, I have two things. The first, I would love to know that talit that is traded. What?
Yes, that's a talit that the temple gave me on my 40th anniversary. I believe Rabbi Perlman brought it back from Israel.
Okay. I apologize. I don't
So
know.
no, so that was
Well,
just the one that I decided to bring. I have quite a collection of talitot, so.
I have one more.
And?
It's a personal thing. I have been very close to Sally, and Sally, I will share that I remember when you were not well in the hospital, and I was at your side, and you said you were really not well, and you said, "Why are you crying?" And this is many years ago. So I have done all the things that I wanted to do. I'm ready. Don't be frightened for me. I'm okay. And I thought then, she's so wrong. She hasn't done all the things she's going to do. And God has been with you and with all of us, because look at what you've accomplished. So
Well,
many years
I
ago.
do very much believe in God, and I believe that we are partners in God and with God in making the world better. And what Cora is referring to is, some of you may not know this, I have had cancer 3 times. And I think that's one of the reasons why I feel so fortunate to celebrate this 50th anniversary. I remember in rabbinic school, we used to go to the ceremony for the 50-year guys, and they were all guys. And we used to look at each other and say, 50 years, we're never going to make it. So, you know, I don't know where all the years went to, but I've tried to use them wisely, and I hope I continue to do so.
And I think we would all agree that she has. So I know there are more questions, but I'm watching the time a little bit, and we do have people on video. So I feel like we need to begin to not really wind down, but this portion of our program, because now it's time for the 𝘊𝘮𝘮.
Absolutely.
We're here, the 𝘊𝘮𝘮 is there, but also we're going to clear away. Well, I want to thank everybody who's on live streaming with us. When we say goodbye to you, we're going to clear away this front. I would really like everybody to get a closer look. And I think Rabbi Priesand will be around to answer questions that you might have directly about this exhibit.
Yes,
or any
don't
of these
forget
events.
to check out the salt and pepper shakers.
Yes, there's a wonderful.
All right, my
collection.
grandmother started that collection. My mother continued it. Now I have them. And just something that I found out, we have 800 sets. And I discovered that the largest salt and pepper shaker museum in the world is in Tel Aviv. So my brother and I were trying to decide, and we were thinking of giving them to a museum, but now I think we decided that his daughter and granddaughter are going to get them and keep them in the family.
So if we could all thank Rabbi Priesand again for being here.
Thank you.
And for being who she is. And I want to thank you all for being here. Please enjoy. We're not in a hurry to leave. Jessica, anything else? All right, and thank you at home as well.